Seeing as how I've already discussed Newbie Dash twice before, once when it first aired and again when Officer Trigger Happy and I somewhat came to a bit of its defense, there's not much else I can add to the story itself. It's simply a yellow flag episode that could have benefited from a rewritten second act that had the Wonderbolts referring to each other by their nicknames, or call signs, which I'll be calling them in this video, to enforce to Rainbow that getting a call sign was really nothing personal. However, with the criticisms leveled at Newbie Dash, some I agree with and some I don't, one aspect of some of the backlash the episode received was people proclaiming that the Wonderbolts were going so far as to bullying Rainbow Dash by giving her the call sign of Crash. Now, I'm not going to be defending the episode in this video, rather I'm going to be defending the Wonderbolts themselves because frankly, I don't see where they were being anywhere near jerks to Rainbow at all, or at least all of them. Okay, so the interesting thing about call signs and nicknames is it's a case-by-case basis on how and why they're given out to someone, but they're not inherently bad things at all. Say you have two people working at the same job who coincidentally have the same first name. A call sign or nickname is then given to one of them to distinguish one from the other so there's no further confusion. An example of this is my favorite band of all time, Def Leppard. Their bassist and drummer both share the same first name of Rick, so the other members quickly gave the bassist, Rick Savage, the nickname of Sav to avoid confusion between who they're talking to, and that particular name for Rick Savage has stuck for over 40 years. Then of course you have someone like me who was given the nickname Lefty as a spin on my YouTube name by my friends in the Void because they were all too lazy to keep typing out my name. Seriously, you're too lazy to say my full channel name? Anyway, this is just another example of how nicknames can be useful and also just for fun between friends. Of course, however, with nicknames and call signs, people with ulterior motives can use them to pick on others, like Rainbow Dash's bullies in Flight Camp did to her by calling her Crash for messing up. Yet, it's the way the name Crash is used by her bullies that's bad, not the actual name itself because it's an ironic name which I'll get more into later. However, like I've stated, the nature of nicknames and call signs are not bad nor bullying in general. It all depends on who coins a nickname for someone and how they use it. Just by saying the Wonderbolts unknowingly gave Rainbow a name that her former tormentors gave her was picking on her is completely disingenuous because Rainbow didn't want to tell them of how the name was used against her in the past. But maybe it's how Rainbow was treated by the Wonderbolts in the episode is what people are upset about. Let's take a look. Alright, I'll get the most obvious point of contention out of the way.
Classic rookie move, Rainbow Crash. That was amazing.
Out of this whole scene, I'll defend all of the Wonderbolts but one. Rainbow Dash pulled a rookie mistake and ended up getting covered in trash, which I continue to point out that she's lucky they didn't assign her the call sign of Trash. And all the other Wonderbolts had a good laugh about it, especially at her excuse to try and cover up said mistake. Look, someone doing something stupid can result in someone laughing at them. Hell, I laughed at Rainbow when she was first revealed to be covered in trash in the episode, and I'm sure most of all you did too. The Wonderbolts having a laugh at that is normal, if at worst just a little rude considering she's still in the trash can, and of course her call sign which Fleetfoot bestowed upon her is funny too, and I'll explain why Fleetfoot wasn't mean in just a moment. However, the problem here is Misty Fly keeps going when everyone else has had their laugh and is ready to get back to training. And as the last one around Rainbow, she not only doesn't offer to help her up, but she takes the opportunity to rub salt in the wound. Yeah.
What a bitch.
I would categorize what Soren, Fleetfoot, Surprise, and the others did as nothing but some joshing amongst teammates. Heck, Soren even asks Rainbow if she's okay. Misty Fly, on the other hoof, just took a chance to kick Rainbow when she was down, and that I can agree and concede to is just absolutely jerky behavior, and I don't blame anyone for getting mad at Misty Fly. While I'm on this scene, I just want to acknowledge the argument that because her call sign caused a flashback that reminded her of being tormented as a kid, she shouldn't have to put up with it. And no, I completely agree she shouldn't have to. Having someone on your team with an issue like that will only hurt the team as a whole in the long run and could potentially damage Rainbow's psyche if left unchecked. But while I do agree that no one should have to live with a nickname that actually induces flashbacks like that in an instant, the biggest problem I have is how lazy it is on the writer's part to use that same name from season 1, and how in the end it's ultimately meaningless. Nowhere else in the episode do we see any more flashbacks or even auditory reminders of why the name Crash affects Rainbow Dash in such a negative way. In fact, after she gets the call sign, all it does to her is just seems to be an annoyance at best to Rainbow given her pathetic attempts to get a new call sign instead of just trying to tell the Wonderbolts how and why Crash affects her. At the end of the episode, she does a complete 180 after simply hearing the other names for the Wonderbolts as if her only issue was she was upset with having a supposed bad reputation amongst them and worrying about a bad first impression. Then you add in how much of an annoying distraction she was in the second act, and the pettiness of both that scene and this one with her and the Wonderbolts become laughably pathetic. Sure, Rainbow can be petty at times, but pulling those stupid and dangerous acts, then basically reacting like, oh well, if you guys get to have stupid call signs too, I guess you can let me have one, is just a step too far. If someone was really having bad memories ringing up as quickly as she did at first, one little talk isn't going to fix that. It's nothing more than a cop-out and stems from the scene where she receives her call sign. Acknowledging her past with her bullies like that isn't even remotely necessary at all. Remove that guilt-tripping flashback and just have Fleetfoot dub Rainbow Runway as a reminder for her screw-up while crossing the runway. Don't forget, Soren got the call sign of Clipper as a reminder for doing something stupid by clipping his wing, and it works just fine. As an added bonus, it doesn't needlessly bring up a bad part of Rainbow's childhood and instead could be the stepping stones to teaching a lesson about turning a possible bad reputation into a good one. Calling her Crash is nothing short of forced and lazy to get people to feel bad for Rainbow Dash and creates a myriad of issues that would take a whole other video to fully discuss. Moving on from that little detour, in the rest of the episode, the Wonderbolts seriously don't do anything that can constitute as bullying or mistreating Rainbow Dash. All they do is try to go about their time trying to practice and train for the upcoming air show. Yeah, they make her clean up the whole compound after her first day, but it's very clearly stated that the worst flyer of the day has to fulfill the cleaning duty, which just so happened to be Rainbow.
Like worst flyer of the day has to clean up the whole compound.
Nothing sinister or malicious there, not even rookie hazing. Plus, remember how I said Fleetfoot wasn't being mean to Rainbow about coining her call sign? Well, take a look at this part of the scene before the broom and bucket are pulled out.
Hey Crash, I know it was a tough day today, but don't worry, you'll get the hang of it.
The very same Wonderbolt who gave Rainbow her official call sign is the first one to try and cheer her up about a tough first day and that she'll eventually get the hang of it. That right there is a damn good teammate trying to pick up a fellow flyer when they're down. It's just great proof that Fleetfoot wasn't picking on Rainbow by giving her the name of Crash, it was just a spur-of-the-moment joke. Don't you think if Fleetfoot was trying to give Rainbow a hard time, she'd poke fun at her or be more critical about her performance and not trying to help Rainbow keep her chin up? If she were, then that conversation would not have been as reassuring. Furthermore, Spitfire yelling in Dash's face with the megaphone was more of a joke, but the Bolts had been putting up with Rainbow's nonsense all day by that point. So it's understandable Spitfire wants her to shut up and focus on practice. Heck, she even calls Rainbow out for her strange behavior after her try as Rarity Dash, which I admit was one of the few actually funny parts of the running joke. Point is though, Spitfire getting fed up with Rainbow's distracting nonsense is normal for anyone. Spitfire and the Wonderbolts don't have time for that crap. Rainbow was disrupting them by being an annoyance and they all amazingly dealt with it before Spitfire had to have a talk with Rainbow about keeping her head in the game, which I applaud them for not blowing up at her. Minus of course Spitfire and the megaphone, but again that was for a pretty good joke, so I have no problem with how she acted towards Rainbow. The final point of contention that a few friends of mine have brought up is this scene where Spitfire gives Rainbow a flight jacket with her call sign stitched onto the front.
Maybe this will help motivate you.
Crash? Couldn't you just put my regular name on it?
That's not how it works around here.
I've heard a few say that having Rainbow wear a jacket that constantly reminds her of her call sign is unnecessarily rude from the Wonderbolts or kind of a dick move on their part. I can see where they're coming from, but it really isn't that big of a deal. For one thing, like I stated before, Rainbow never told them why Crash got under her fur so much, so they can't possibly know that making a unique jacket for her could annoy her. Furthermore, people get their nicknames or call signs added to various items all the time to really personalize them, or they're much better known by that different name. For example, in NASCAR, Kyle Busch's nickname is Rowdy for the way he drives, and it stuck so much that instead of putting his real name above his driver door, he added his nickname. Not to mention, in the Air Force and Navy, pilots not only have their rank and real names painted on the fuselage, but also their call signs just like in this picture. And if you ask me, Crash is a much better call sign than Sweats, or this poor bastard here. Finally, when Rainbow asks why she couldn't just get a jacket with her real name, Spitfire replies that it's just how things work around there. Right there, she point blank explains that getting more personalized jackets with their call signs added in isn't anything new or just something they did for Rainbow. It really represents a point of inclusion for Rainbow. She gets a jacket with her own call sign just like the rest of the Bolts do. Jackets only they get to have and wear around to show off that they're in a special group. Besides, just like how some Air Force and Navy pilots get their call signs painted on their jets, some also get their call signs specially embroidered onto their flight jackets as well. There's nothing malicious going on here with Rainbow and Spitfire, just the captain of the Wonderbolts giving Rainbow a symbol of acceptance into the group. Now you might think I'm done here, but not just yet. Earlier I stated Fleetfoot was not acting like a jerk or picking on Rainbow when she crowned the latter Pegasus with the name Crash, and that the call sign was an ironic one which makes it funny. Well, Rainbow acting foolish by forgetting to look both ways before crossing the runway, getting covered in trash, and receiving a call sign perfectly follows the first of the 3 unwritten rules for call signs in the Air Force and the Navy. Ah!
Whoa, hold it right there, Lefty.
Does every friend of mine that has a horn even know what doors are?
Wait, what?
What do you want?
Hey, no need to yell, I'm standing right here. I just wanted to remind you of what I said during our top 10 overhated episodes list. This episode needs to stand on its own merits without needing comparisons to the military for it to work.
I know. I was gonna say that. It's just an aspect of the military that the writers miraculously got right given how butchered the second act is. Except I'm not trying to give the episode bonus points for that. I'm pointing out this is how call signs in the military work as evidence that the Wonderbolts were not targeting Rainbow Dash to bully her. I didn't give Cart Before the Ponies a pass just because it had kart racing in it, did I?
Oh. Well, do you... Process! The process is ours!
Okay. No more mellow yellow around him. Anyway, what I meant by the 3 unwritten rules is that Air Force pilots and naval aviators follow a strict set of unwritten codes for giving out call signs when a new pilot joins their ranks. Rule number 1 goes like this. You don't get to pick your call sign. Your fellow flyers give you one, and it's given based off your name or doing something stupid. For Rainbow Dash, she did something incredibly foolish and ended up crashing into some trash cans near the runway, thus earning her the call sign of Crash. And of course, call signs and nicknames can come off spur-of-the-moment incidents such as that, and it happened to stick. So again, Fleetfoot wasn't being mean, she witnessed Rainbow doing something stupid and poked fun at the rookie, giving her a call sign in the process, exactly how Soren got his. Heck, going off this, Rainbow even followed rule number 2 of how she didn't like it and she couldn't get the Bolts to change it to something better, no matter how much she tried. Rainbow is also incredibly lucky rule number 3 wasn't instituted by the Wonderbolts by giving her an even worse name for her acting like an annoying twit for the second act. For how much the writing was screwed up in the second act of the episode, it's honestly astonishing how the writers got this call sign process correct. Though again, I don't give it bonus points for this. All I'm doing is defending the Wonderbolts by explaining they just went by how every other pilot and naval aviator in history got their call sign and were not trying to pick on Rainbow. And if anyone is interested, I'll link the website where you can read the unwritten rules for yourselves and even read stories of how pilots got their own call signs. So with that, I'll end this video. I hope I've brought to light how the attitudes and actions of the Wonderbolts and Newbie Dash, minus Mistyfly obviously, weren't based off animosity, but simple nickname and call sign protocol. All I wanted to do was explain how these things work between real-life pilots, defend the Wonderbolts from people who simply didn't know, and give my side of how I saw the Wonderbolts' behavior at several points in the episode. Of course, I completely agree that the second act should have been Rainbow witnessing her fellow Bolts addressing one another in their own call signs, thus explaining to the audience without resorting to exposition that that was how names worked in the Wonderbolts. None of them were picking on Rainbow Dash and that it was a sign of inclusion for them. Nonetheless, I'm curious to see what people think of the Wonderbolts and Newbie Dash now. Please let me know if anything for you has changed or if you still hold your firm original thoughts. I'm MrLeftTurn. I'll see you when I get back from the track.